just would like to introduce you to this amazing woman, Yvonne Williams. I met Yvonne at one of the women's conference, and she spoke at the conference, and I was able to connect with everything that Yvonne said at multiple levels. And I thought it would be a privilege to actually have her here today to share her journey. She is an amazing woman, a woman who has demonstrated the liquidity of thought and the nimbleness of mind to be able to transition herself from one situation to another. Isn't that something to commend? I know I'm keeping you all in suspense, but once Yvonne starts talking, you would know what I'm talking about. And by the way, Yvonne is a Mary Kay National Director. Am I correct? She's won several awards, and she is a self-made businesswoman. And her journey has been an interesting one. And a lot of us, she is a mother of two, which means at some point in her life, she had to juggle childcare and finding a career that was not just financially fulfilling, but also psychologically something that she really wanted to do. She wanted to be out there talking to women and encouraging women to be connected to who they really are and do well for themselves. So I'm very privileged to have Yvonne on board. So I'm going to sit myself down, Yvonne, if you don't mind. Right. So Yvonne, tell me, obviously you have been through an extraordinary journey. I'm just saying this from what I knew when I watched you talk, right? Uh-huh. And can you tell us a little bit more about, I know now you are making thousands of pounds a month. She's making about 11,000 pounds a month from doing Mary Kay. But it's not just about the money. If you listen very closely to this conversation, it's not just about the money. Yvonne has been through a journey. And for me, that is what is really important. So Yvonne, tell me, how did you get from point A to point B growing up? Did you see yourself being the person that you are right now in terms of, doing very well, being a mother who's raised two children? Okay. How did that happen? Did you see that? Did you see that happening?
Well, good evening, everyone. And Connie, thank you very much for inviting me. It was an interesting invite, and I wasn't sure what to expect. But as I think I told my story when I met you, I would have been one of the children that most of the speakers have spoken about, because I was somebody who came here when I was 11 and a half from Jamaica, to myself and my brother, uprooted from my grandmother, brought to parents that I had never met, although I knew them, but obviously I was 2 when my mother left me in Jamaica. My brother was 3. Apart from the photographs, those grainy ones that you can never recognize anyone, my parents had 2 other children here, and I literally arrived in this country on June the 8th, 1968, so I know I look 21, but trust me, I'm not. And immediately was chief cook and bottle washer. For 2 younger children, the Italian babysitter was stopped, and I was sole carer for my 2 young sisters. I then had to learn to cook, iron, wash, and clean. Now you're talking about grandmother's pampered princess. So England was an absolute and horrific culture shock. It was even worse for my brother because educationally he wasn't an academic person. In Jamaica, he would cook, he would grow things, he would do all the manly jobs, because my grandmother was left with 5 of her grandchildren. Parents had gone out to make their fortune. But my father did not accept anything that wasn't academic. So you talk about beating. We could tell you about beatings. And I say all the time, I was born the day before social services actually got involved in families, because my brother was even taken into care, and because he kept running away from home. and tried to break into car meters. You know those meters, you don't have them anymore that you used to put the money in? So it showed that he needed some intelligence up there, but never mind, because you would not look at a meter and try and break in a meter, would you, with a stone? Anyway, he was taken and put into care, but they did not investigate what was happening in the rest of the family. And I left home before I was 18 years old, in the middle of my A-levels, because I couldn't take it any longer. And I left home to sleep on a sofa in a friend's one-bedroom flat, cold. You talk about 2 degrees. Girl, it was more than 2 degrees, and that was inside the house because we could not afford to heat the house. It's all very well to put the gas fire there, but you had to put money in the gas fire. And, you know, when you talk about angels, I can sympathize with that because I can empathize with that because, you know, so many people helped me. Because I say all the time, I should have been a statistic. I should have been one of those women who left home, and I was told by the people in church, you're going to end up in the gutter and you're going to have to go back home. And I sat there and I just remembered, you know, because I was my grandmother's princess in Jamaica. I could do no wrong. When I see my cousin, I'm flying to the States on Monday to spend 4 days with my cousin before going to a conference in Dallas. And she always says, you know, you always got away with it because I was always reading. So, you know, my grandmother just left me to read. So everybody else worked and I sat there reading, you know. I was always my grandmother's princess. And that made me a different person in England because I knew I was meant to be somebody. And I knew that I was not going to end up with children for different fathers and in the gutter. And, you know, I harbored a lot of, like your friend that you talked to, you know, I really hated my parents. And God forgive me for saying that. But I really did. I hated my parents for about 3 or 4 years when I left home because they were hateful people. Some of the things that I was told by my parents, you know, it was so hurtful. I could never, ever imagine saying to my child, I should have killed you at birth. Saying to my child, you were, you know, I was premature in Jamaica. I was born weighing a bag of sugar. And, you know, they could have killed me and nobody would have known. I could never, ever imagine saying that to anybody. Never mind my children. For nothing apart from you kiss your teeth, you think you're a big woman, you want to go here, you want to go here. Extracurricular activities, my extracurricular activities was coming home to look after my children and to cook dinner because my mother was working nights. And guess what? I should be grateful that they sent for me because they could have left me in Jamaica. And the one time when I said, well, you should have done, because I would have been better off with my grandmother, glasses went flying over the place. Up to now, I think my head was still spinning from it. So that was what I left from after nearly 5 years.
So Yvonne, just tell me, you know, I've worked with children who have been separated from their parents. And my understanding is that when you're separated from your parents, you kind of fantasize about how life would be when you join them. So what was it for you? Did you fantasize at all?
I always dreamt I was adopted, and a big car was going to come through the dust in St. Thomas, and somebody was going to come and get me, and I was going to drive away in an air-conditioned car. That was my
obviously your fantasies were
fantasy.
Quite different from what you actually experienced.
When I got here, yes.
So at what point then how did you get yourself to where you are? Because with the sort of experience that you had, you would have ended up in the streets anyway.
Yeah.
So what was it for you?
As I said, really people helping me and I worked in the night. I worked at different hotels doing night audit, chambermaiding, whatever to put food on my table. And I went to college during the daytime and completed my studies, became a social worker.
Right, okay, you were a social worker.
From Westhill College.
Okay.
In Birmingham.
It's interesting, yeah.
It was not my calling and my passion, Connie.
Yes, I forgive you for that.
That's okay, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I did. I did a brief stint with the probation service in Birmingham and really fell into business. I fell into business, and again, you know, we don't have a long time, but you know, I promised my accountant I will write a book because he keeps nagging me about writing a book. But it's one of these things I keep saying when I retire. But I fell into business because in Birmingham there was not a decent hairdressing salon that I could have my hair done.
Right.
And at that time, I met my husband, and I kept complaining about having to go to London to do my hair. And he said, "Why don't you open a salon?" And I said, "Well, how would I do that?" He said, "Well, do a business plan, and we'll take it to the bank." So we did. I opened a salon, and if you're old enough, you may remember Ebony of Mayfair. I had 3 salons, 2 in Birmingham and 1 in London. Just off Regent Street, so very successful salons, which I closed in 1995 because having been introduced to Mary Kay, I realized that this was what I was looking for. This enabled me to be myself, and it enabled me to help other women because what Mary Kay did for me is priceless in terms of my growth, both emotionally, money, obviously, all the wonderful things in life that I love, like a free car and 2 trips a year and a fabulous lifestyle. Lifestyle.
How amazing, how amazing.
That's what I get from this
And as a
business.
parent, did that actually give you some flexibility as well?
Yeah,
Because obviously you were a mother at the time with young children.
Yeah, well, yeah, when I started, yeah. I mean, my daughter is 28 now. My son is 35 next month.
Ooh, you're doing really well, by the way.
My daughter has traveled the world with me, and she has said to me, "Oh, Mom, I'm really glad you do Mary Kay because we couldn't do these things that we do now." She helped me in my business for a year after she did her master's, but she's working now. And she will soon be leaving me to go off to Dallas because her boyfriend has got a job over there.
How amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Yvonne, just going back to your experience, because as a community, we are in a position where most of the time when we're kind of struggling with parenting or, maybe finding the support that we need to be able to go to work, when we're struggling, we always sometimes find the need to send our children back home. So I think your story is particularly, it's very important for me. And I think for families who are maybe thinking of separating themselves from their children, maybe sending them back home, or maybe those whose children are back home and they want the children to join them here. What are if you were to summarize 3 key points, what are some of the tips that you would give them in terms of preparing them to be that parent that the child is actually envisaging in terms of building that relationship? What would you say? 3 points in summary.
I think the hardest thing is for your child to feel that they're loved. And not just you brought them here because they're older and they can cook and clean and look after the house.
Wow.
I think the second point is, the children that you have here are, special, where you were used to the rough treatment in the bush kind of thing. That was always what we were told, and to make everybody feel equal. I know when you have a family, there's always, I know we all say we don't have a favorite, but we really do. And, I think the important thing is that the favorite child doesn't have to be the ones that are born here. You have to really work on developing a relationship because, I called my grandmother Mom. My grandmother was my mama, and, I always say, well, Mama said I couldn't do this, and, oh, well, she's not your mother, she's grandma. But, that was who I called Mom. And it's hard to then, cross over and see this strange person and have a new set of rules to work with.
I think that is amazing, honestly. And when you think about your journey from the sort of business side of things, I think I'm a mother, and I'm really kind of struggling with work, managing work and childcare and all that. So no matter how advanced you are in your career, you get to a point where you realize that childcare issues become a problem. So there are a lot of us women who are kind of struggling and really kind of thinking, what else can we do? And obviously you have done amazingly well with Mary Kay. So what advice, if you had to summarize again, what are the key tips that you would give women out there who are trying to find their path in terms of financial growth?
See, Mary Kay was easy compared to 3 salons, working 6 days a week, 2 late nights, never seen my children from morning till night. because I left home at either 6 or 7 o'clock every morning, depending on which salon I was at that day, and I was lucky to be back home at 8 o'clock. So when I actually, and I had au pairs, I'd live in au pairs from my son was 1. It's the only way I could work. Now, Mary Kay enabled me to be flexible. And there were some life changes in that my husband's business went bankrupt, so he was at home, miserable, but at home.
Miserable.
Yeah, but at home. And so I could be flexible then. I could say, okay, are you going to be home this time, this time, this time, because I need to know that you're here to pick up the kids or whatever, and then work my way around that. So in terms of flexibility, that was so easy.
So what would you say to the women then?
Yeah, I would say do something that's flexible. Do something that you're in control of, you know. And, you know, a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people, oh, we want to go into business. What are you going to do? Open a shop, open a hairdresser's and what? I have nothing wrong with that. But, you know, there are lots of businesses like Mary Kay that could make you your fortune if you are prepared to do the work.
If you are prepared to do the work, that's the key.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much,
Thank
Yvonne.
you. Thank you for having me, Connyz. Thank you very, very much.
I hope you did enjoy it, and hopefully you have, you know, learned something from Yvonne's, from the interview with Yvonne, obviously, particularly around the issue of separation. And thank you very much, Yvonne, for that.
Connyz, thank you.
Thank you. Amazing.